Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays The Binding of Isaac. I'm excited, I got a smile on my face, couple of reasons. First one, 11 wins in a row. This is my fourth Isaac video of the day. GYBLVHFP, no numbers, but no problem. Look at those stats, baby. Hold on, does this work? It does, dude. You can use Unicorn Stomp and Blue Baby's only friend. Seems like the kind of thing that would have come up before. So I'm just raising my volume. So I should have known that this worked, but the fact that it works is also extremely great. That's a lot of killing power early on. So there's one reason, you know. There's been good Isaac videos today. Here's another reason. Coming off a good Tetris 99 recording session, where we picked up multiple wins. Always nice, you know, you never want to get to the point where you become entitled. Oh, and the orbital as well here is just disgustingly good. But, you know, here's a third reason. Deadly Premonition stream today went very well. No complaints. It's been a pretty good day. And, you know, I got even a smile on my face because this is the last video I'm going to record today. Now, I love recording. I love streaming, etc., but it is always nice to get yourself freed up. I got stuff to do, you know, and I got a smile on my face because I get to do it. Get to do the laundry. Get to do some dishes, some meal prep in the Instant Pot that sets you up for a good week ahead. It's a positive Sunday here. We're making moves. You know what? Come on, now that I think about it, brother, I got a smile on my face I didn't even realize. Tonight's the season finale of The Righteous Gemstones. I got another smile on my face. Although sometimes HBO Go doesn't get the episode for a couple of days. I'm not going to worry about it all that much just yet. Second secret room 2, please. Yo, it totally worked. It's beautiful. No. No, no, no. Oh, no, 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 no. So, 2 bombs. I will use a bomb for this purpose right here. Yo, it's so good. We have been just given an unbelievable gift at the start of today's episode. Not only like above average stats in pretty much every department, but then on top of that, good items, good damage potential, and we got the ability to fly, invincibility. Like we got 10 different ways to win this run. This should be an easy one. I have to say, you know, when I look back on 2019, you can go back in Isaac episodes. There have been years of Isaac, which is, I mean, they're Isaac to you, but to me, I just call it my life. Where I'll say things like, you know, I watch on average like 2 episodes of television a week. That's definitely, this year has changed in a big way, you know? I don't know if I'd call it a positive or a negative. I don't really, it's not that I have more idle time. I just am more apt to use my idle time outside of this office, which largely involves keeping the TV keeping the TV on in the background while I play Tetris or Slay the Spire. I don't think that's necessary, but there's been some good TV this year. Game of Thrones ended. I'm not trying to dunk on Season 8, but hey, look, I didn't like Season 8, but the fact that the show has come to its conclusion, I don't want to say it's a positive thing because it makes it seem like I'm like, it's finally over. But anytime a show comes to an end, you're like, you know, you can move on with your life. You get a little bit of extra time in the weekly schedule. I watched the first few seasons of Better Call Saul this year. We can't actually afford to grab those, unfortunately. Unbelievably good show, right, Tomo? Righteous Gemstones has been awesome. I watched the only 2 seasons of Vice Principals. This show kind of blew me away, to be honest. Season 1, decent. Season 2, out of control. And in between all of this, a staggering amount of unsolved mysteries and forensic files. Well, I fall asleep. Now, you might say, Anel, what happened to hardcore history? Dan Carlin's a busy man, apparently. There has not been a new hardcore history episode since January. Sometimes I have like an insomnia flowchart. It's really more like an insomnia algorithm, I guess. But if I put on Unsolved Mysteries, okay? Tonight on Unsolved Mysteries, he was a... And then before you know it, next thing you know, it's 9 a.m. You know? Perhaps you, too, could solve a mystery. Anyway, if you don't watch Unsolved Mysteries, you won't get it. Just Unsolved Mysteries things. If I'm awake at the end of an episode of Unsolved Mysteries, something has gone terribly wrong. I will take this. Absolutely. So then I turn to Hardcore History. Now if I'm still awake at the end of a Hardcore History episode, it's too late because every single one of them is 4 hours long. But if I'm awake, if I've been awake long enough to, like, you know, it's been hours and hours and there's still Hardcore History going on, then I yeet myself out of that. I got one more option. I have a series of audiobooks on Audible that are basically like every word spoken during the Second World War by Anthony Beaver. And that, if that doesn't, it's not that it's not interesting, it's quite the opposite. I'm sure the audiobook has probably sold like millions of copies. But it's so thorough and rigorous that it's, you know, your brain is like, nah, dude, just yeet me. I'd rather just sleep right now. It's perfect. And if that doesn't work, well, then it's just a rough night, isn't it? Dude, I'm telling you, this is going to be an easy run today. I can't believe, I know people always say this all the time, I can't believe we're already in November, more or less. It's not unfathomable, but you know what I think it is? I think that the year goes slow until it goes fast. That's what I'm choosing to think about this one. If that, it might not make sense, but people, you know, I've talked to people, they've been like, oh, 2019 went by so quickly. And I've been like, nah, that's not the case. I mean, it felt like roughly 1 year's length to me, to be honest. But now that it's like almost November, I'm like, dude, you were right. It flew by. Did it fly by, though? Or is there just not very much left? It is weird to think about, though. You know, I remember thinking that when I graduated from elementary school, the way that elementary school works in the school district where I grew up is, you know, you start when you're 3 or 4 in junior kindergarten. And then, I mean, if you don't move or you don't move out of the district, you go to the same school till you graduate from 8th grade. I know other people, they're like, there's preschool, primary school, middle school, grammar school, whatever, you know? That was not the case, you know, in my town. I'm not saying it's better or worse one way or the other, but, you know, I went to the same elementary school for 10 years. Like an eighth of my life that I barely remember. And I remember, like, when 8th grade ended, like, me and my classmates, it was, you know, not emotional. It was actually, like, it was a triumphant moment to make it out. That's a long time, dude. A decade. But, you know, some of our classmates got emotional, despite the fact that, like, 95% of us are going to the same high school. And they're like, it went by so fast. People, even then, were like, what are you talking about? I'm 13 at the moment. I've been in this school for 10 of the 13 years on the planet. It's literally the slowest process I've been a part of in my short life so far. But I get it when you get close to the end. You think the end is never going to come because you spend so much time in that mindset of like, it's here soon, it's here soon, it's here soon. It's like running, you know? If you're running like 10K, you know, when do you start to let yourself actually take notice of the fact that the finish is soon upon you? If you get to 5K and you go, oh, we're almost there, psychologically, not really, right? You got a ways to go is all I'm trying to say. It's only in the last, like, kilometer or so you start to have that, like, oh, we're almost done. And then you're like, maybe I could go a little longer. I mean, look, don't shoot the messenger on this one, okay? There's very little point to not taking Mom's knife on this one. This is just a fundamentally, like, it's a beautiful run. I will say, like, you'll like this one, because it's me complaining about having a good run. This run is good in all the unfun ways that a lot of our bad runs have been bad. There is, and I'm not complaining because it's working out for us this time. All I'm saying, oh, we didn't have, Unicorn Stump, that's right. All I'm saying is that we're in the same boat this time because of the fact that basically nothing we do has any impact on our chance for survival. Unlike our previous runs, where the game ordained that we would lose by never giving us statistical improvements. On this one, the game has ordained that we have no chance to lose as long as we continue to press the spacebar item. I mean, if you were doing... I saw that Isaac is at... I think it's at AGDQ this year. Can't remember if they just announced AGDQ or SGDQ. It's a weird game to speedrun. I mean that with all due respect. I don't know, like, I haven't looked into it, but... I mean, I don't have any interest in being a speedrunner myself. It's honestly just more work than I'm willing to put in for the benefit you get. If you're attracted to that, like, that appeal, you know, you wanna be the best, more power to you. I just want to tell jokes. I'll take Leech, but why? I guess, you know what? That's a valid point. It's a pretty valid point, all things considered. But what I was gonna say is, I don't know how they do it. They might do it. They might have like a condition or something. Maybe there's a seed, or maybe they only start counting it once they decide they want to start with an item or something like that. Because, I mean, I'll tell you, I've had Isaac runs that you wouldn't believe. C-beams glittering off of the etc., etc. We don't really want this. I've always, oh, I didn't even mean to get that, unfortunately. I've always taken the approach, the interpretation, I should say, that, you know, Roy Batty in Blade Runner, when he says C-beams glittering off the Tau Bridge or whatever, I just think that he was like a framer. You know, he built houses and laid drywall in his android life. And C-beams are just the kind of structural support for particularly architecturally complex buildings. It's probably the worst joke I ever told. But as soon as I started saying it, I apologize internally. You know what struck me the other day? We don't need any invincibility, obviously. When the heck did people start becoming so interested in television programs where people cook cakes? I know, like, it happened so slowly. It was like a frog being placed in lukewarm water and then having the heat turned up, right? It was like there was Cake Boss, and then there was the other dude. You know, there were the two guys, and then one of them was like, I'm the Cake Boss. I remember that part. And then, like, there's a 5-year gap in my memory where I don't think I had cable. We call those the glory days of self-improvement. Grab this dice shard real quick. Yes. None of this actually matters, but that's okay. Not psychological, like on a living level, it matters. But I mean, like, you know, the items we pick up here don't really matter too much. And we're going to stars card ourselves out of the boss trap room. There was like 5 years where I wasn't paying attention. When I came back, the Food Network was just 90 shows about people baking cakes. And now, like, either the Cake Boss or the other cake, the Cake Duke, I don't know who it is, but they're like judges on reality shows, and then occasionally I don't know, some of them are like, hold on, what do we want here? What do we want? Why not? Oh, what a whiff. It's not that it matters, but it is funny. I just didn't realize there was such a fervor around the baking of cakes. And some of the cakes, like, they're there to be tasted. Some of the cakes are there to be looked at, I suppose. Look, I'm not the right kind of guy for the job because I don't like cake to begin with. I'm not a, I'm not a cake eater for the most part. Like, you ever heard the expression from Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake? I was the one guy who was like, I get that expression. I get why the people were mad. Everybody else in my class was like, cake is better than bread. I was like, I'll pump the brakes there, Brent. You gotta look at the macronutrient breakdown before you start saying stuff like that. It's madness. I guess I sort of get it, because, like, cake baking is like it's an intersection, right? There's art, and there's food. Like, there's an artistic element to the icing and the design of the cake. And then there's the food element, which I still haven't teased apart why people, myself included, like watching other people talk about and eat food. But, you know, it's called the Food Network, you know, when in Rome. Then there's also almost like an architectural or like an HGTV aspect to it, right? Like, oh my God, how did they get that cake to stand up? So I guess I sort of understand it. I'm just surprised that there's so many. Like, 3 shows about cakes, I get. But I feel like you could actually watch 24/7 cake-related content on that television network. It's like HGTV. Like, I talk about it all the time. But HGTV is like my #1 cable nemesis. It's also literally... It's like the second most popular cable network on television, which is just terrifying to me. I'm pretty sure, and this might be a coincidence instead of a causal relationship, but I'm pretty sure if you look at the rise in, you know, worldwide housing prices and you compare it to the rise in HGTV viewership, it's like 1-to-1. But anyway, ignoring how it may or may not have ushered in unstable housing prices that make it impossible for my generational cohorts to survive in an increasingly hostile economic war against their own parents. What was I saying? It's the same thing. Where, like, how many different... There's 9 different flipper flops. There's flipper flop, love it or list it. Love it or list it Vancouver. Love it or list it Los Angeles. And then there's, like, flipper flop California. Like, they got all these beachfront flip and flop. Who is, like... I just have to know. That's really what it comes down to, is I just gotta know who out there... I'm a little nervous about my HP, I'm not gonna lie. Who out there was like, flipper flop, I hate it. But beachfront flipper flop, well, now you're speaking my language. And the tiny house nation, tiny house hunters, tiny house builders. Tiny house, big family. Every single time. I forget where I was, but I was like, we must have been in public somewhere. But oh, you know what? Actually, we were not in public. We were at home. But I was in the kitchen and Kay was watching TV. She's like, "What's this?" And then I just heard the music and I was like, I bet it's a show about tiny houses. And then I heard, you know, the realtor go like, "Here it is." And then the dude said, "Smaller than I expected." You're like, "Yeah, dude." Show's called, I mean, you don't need me to tell you this yet again, but the show's called Tiny House. It's not called Big House. It's not, you're not auditioning for the television program known as The Largest Houses on the Earth. It might surprise you, but they would not really, in my opinion, get many viewers on a television program. Yeah, thank you. Start hitting the space bar this time. They wouldn't get as many views on a television program that was like moderately sized living spaces, you know? That show is called The Real World for most people, myself included. The people are watching Tiny House, and you're getting paid to be on Tiny House because of the fact that you have made the decision to live in a house that is, you know, smaller than most people's bathrooms. Don't get me wrong, by the way. I understand, and in some, I wouldn't say I admire. That's a step too far. But I do understand the tiny house mindset. You know, again, I live in a city where things are very expensive. And land / real estate especially. And I'm also the kind of guy who doesn't really care to own possessions that much. So when, you know, every house that I've ever lived in that my parents have gotten has been way larger than I ever needed, to the point of like being like, we don't need this much space. However, I think for me, if the tiny house works for you, then the tiny house works for you. Don't let some naysayer come in and tell you it's a bad idea. But you know, I can't help but feel there will be some times inside of that tiny house when you're like, man, I wish this was just a little bit bigger. We got dazzled by the fact that we could buy a house for $25,000. Like I said, like if it came down to it, you know, would I rather... And by the way, what I'm going to say right now is going to sound insulting. I'm just going to say it to people that live in Iowa, okay? I don't mean it that way, but there's no other way for it to come across. Would I rather buy a $35,000 tiny house or a in Vancouver, or a $35,000, you know, decent home in a part of the world / you know, continent where real estate prices are very low? I would rather, you know, I would rather live in the boonies than a tiny house in the city. I would, but not everybody's in that same position, I suppose. Again, if you're from Iowa, you should take it as a compliment. And if you take it as an insult, just know that it's not an insult intentionally. If anything, it's a comment made out of jealousy, right? The fact that it's so cheap to live where you live, that's, I mean, it's admirable. Well, not admirable, because I don't know if you had any control over it, but, you know, it must be nice, let's put it that way. What's stopping me from moving there? Desire. And I don't really want to leave Canada, to be honest, but I'll tell you, I'll go there before I'll get a tiny house. There's no doubt about that. Please let me out. I don't think we're in trouble on this run. You should know, by the way. I mean, in case it's not clear, I'm not a snob about where I live. I love Vancouver. But you know, having lived in the country for a long time, you know, I know people in the country, they make their own fun. You know? You don't necessarily need to have access to, you know, a state-of-the-art amphitheater. You just get a 12-pack of Kokanee, get on your bud's GT Racer, have him tow you behind his four-wheeler. It's way more exciting than any stupid orchestra. Yeah, bud, that's frickin' right. Yeah, bud, that's friggin' A. Last night was quite a gong show. I did see it's a Canadian little... Anyway. I've been there is what I'm saying. I never fit in, but I've been there. Forgot what I was talking about. Anyway, I'm just saying, when are the... I don't really watch a lot of Food Network anymore. I've gone through fits and spurts, but there's only like... The reason I don't watch a lot of Food Network is not necessarily because I don't like watching shows about food, but there's only like 4 shows now under many, many different names. Cake baking reality TV show competitions are a big one. Then there's diners, drive-ins and dives, and diners, drive-ins and dives knockoffs, of which there are several. There are 2 Canadian diners, drive-ins and dives knockoffs, which is just staggering to me. That show, I mean no disrespect to Mr. Fieri, but that show is just vapid to me. You just, hey, look at this, I don't know, dude, we make our sandwich, we put garlic powder in the meat. Whoa! Garlic powder in the meat just to give it that zing, huh? Then you watch a dude eat it and be like, it's so delicious. It's not for me, okay? Be like, honey, we gotta check that out. Next time we're in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, we gotta go to Tom's Diner. I hear the cheeseburger has garlic powder in it. Anyway, what am I talking about? I don't know. That was a quick episode. For now, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya.